Marcus Chun moved through the marble foyer with practiced silence, his cleaning cart wheels gliding soundlessly across the pristine floor. The Sterling mansion demanded perfection, and he delivered it every morning before the sun painted the windows gold. His hands, calloused yet gentle, guided the microfiber cloth across surfaces with an attention to detail that spoke of deeper understanding. The grandfather clock chimed 6:30 as he paused at the base of the sweeping staircase. Victoria Sterling would emerge in exactly 47 minutes, coffee in hand, barely acknowledging his presence before disappearing into her black Tesla. The routine never varied, and Marcus preferred it that way. Invisibility meant job security, and job security meant Emma's medical insurance remained intact. He knelt beside the antique side table, noting the slight tremor in the wood grain that suggested moisture damage. His fingers traced the pattern with the precision of someone who understood structural integrity beyond mere cleaning. Years of training had taught him to see what others missed, to diagnose problems before they became visible. But those days belonged to another life, another Marcus who wore scrubs instead of janitor uniforms. The sound of small feet padding down the servants' staircase made him smile. Emma appeared in the doorway, her school backpack already strapped to her narrow shoulders, dark hair still mussed from sleep. "She's early today," he thought, checking his watch. The disruption to routine sent a small flutter of concern through his chest, but her bright smile reassured him that nothing was wrong. Victoria Sterling descended the marble staircase like a force of nature, her designer heels clicking a sharp rhythm that commanded attention. Her platinum hair was pulled into a severe bun, and her gray suit spoke of boardroom battles and million-dollar decisions. She swept past Marcus without a glance, her phone already pressed to her ear. "I need those reports on my desk by 9, she said into the device, her voice cutting through the morning silence. "And tell Davidson if he's late to another meeting, he can find new employment." Marcus continued polishing the banister, his movements steady and unobtrusive. He had mastered the art of becoming furniture, of existing in the spaces between her awareness. It was safer this way, cleaner. Important people like Victoria Sterling had no need to notice the man who kept their world spotless. She paused at the kitchen entrance, finally acknowledging his presence with a dismissive wave. "The upstairs bathroom faucet is dripping again," she said without looking at him. "Fix it today. I can't have imperfections when the Hartwell Group tours the house tomorrow." "Yes, ma'am," Marcus replied quietly, already calculating the probable cause. The washer would need replacement, a simple 5-minute repair that most handymen would charge $200 to complete. His medical training had taught him diagnostic thinking that extended far beyond human anatomy. Victoria disappeared into the garage, leaving behind only the faint scent of expensive perfume and the weight of casual dismissal that Marcus had learned to carry without complaint. Marcus climbed to the master bathroom, his toolbox light in his experienced grip. The dripping faucet revealed itself immediately, a steady percussion against the Italian marble that would drive most people to distraction. He knelt beside the fixture, his fingers automatically assessing the valve mechanism with the same methodical approach he once used for joint mobility tests. The rubber washer had degraded from mineral deposits, creating microfractures that allowed water to escape. "Simple wear patterns," he murmured to himself, unconsciously slipping into the diagnostic language that had once defined his professional identity. Easily correctable with proper intervention. As he worked, muscle memory guided his hands through precise movements that spoke of years treating similar deterioration in human joints. The correlation wasn't lost on him. Cartilage breakdown, synovial fluid leakage, the gradual failure of systems designed to last decades. His former patients had trusted those same careful fingers to restore their mobility, to ease their pain. Emma's voice drifted up from the kitchen where she waited for her school ride. "Daddy, don't forget I have soccer practice after school today." The reminder sent a familiar pang through his chest. Emma's left ankle had been bothering her lately, a slight favoring that his trained eye caught immediately. The pediatric orthopedist appointment was scheduled for next month, pending insurance approval. Every dollar counted now. Every day of employment a step closer to ensuring his daughter's athletic dreams remained intact. He tightened the final connection and tested the repair. Perfect silence replaced the persistent drip. Victoria Sterling commanded the boardroom like a general surveying a battlefield. 23 floors above the city streets, her corner office reflected her position at the apex of Sterling Enterprises. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed her silhouette as she dissected quarterly reports with surgical precision. The Hartwell acquisition needs to close by Friday, she declared to her assembled executives. I don't care if their legal team wants more time. Time is money, and I don't waste either. Her assistant knocked tentatively before entering. Mrs. Sterling, your housekeeper called about tomorrow's schedule. Housekeeper? Victoria's eyebrows rose sharply. I employ a janitor, not a housekeeper. Make sure he understands his place before the Hartwell tour. I can't have them thinking I'm running some kind of charity operation. The assistant nodded quickly and retreated. Victoria returned to her reports, dismissing the interruption with practiced efficiency. People were resources to be managed, problems to be solved or eliminated. The janitor kept her home pristine for a fraction of what a proper domestic staff would cost. His background was irrelevant as long as he remained invisible and effective. Her phone buzzed with another crisis demanding immediate attention. A supplier in Shanghai, a delayed shipment, millions hanging in the balance. This was her world, where decisions moved markets and weakness invited destruction. She had built her empire by understanding that sentiment was luxury she couldn't afford. The afternoon sun filtered through their modest apartment windows as Marcus helped Emma with her homework at the kitchen table. Her math worksheet lay between them, pencil marks erased and rewritten multiple times as she worked through challenging fractions. I don't understand why we have to find common denominators, Emma said, frustration creeping into her voice. Will I ever use this in real life? Marcus smiled, remembering similar conversations from his previous life when explaining complex medical procedures to patients. Everything connects, sweetheart, like when I calculate medication dosages based on body weight, or when you figure out how much pizza each person gets at a party. Emma's eyes lit up with understanding. Oh, like sharing. That makes sense now. As she continued working, Marcus noticed her unconsciously shifting weight off her left foot. The subtle compensation pattern triggered his clinical instincts. He knelt beside her chair, gently examining her ankle with practiced hands that remembered every bone, every ligament. Does this hurt? He asked, applying gentle pressure to specific points. A little, Emma admitted. But it's okay, Daddy. I can still play soccer. His heart clenched at her brave smile. The insurance approval seemed to crawl through bureaucratic channels while his daughter pushed through discomfort she shouldn't have to bear. Every parent's nightmare, watching their child hurt while feeling powerless to provide immediate relief. This job, this invisible existence, was the price of her future health and dreams. Where in the world are you listening from tonight? What would you sacrifice for your children? The next morning brought increased tension to the Sterling mansion. Victoria paced through rooms like a hurricane, inspecting potential damage, her sharp eyes cataloging every surface for the Hartwell Group's arrival. Marcus followed at a respectful distance, receiving a steady stream of demands delivered with growing impatience. The chandelier needs to sparkle more, she snapped, pointing at the crystal fixture that already gleamed like captured starlight. And I found dust on the picture frames in the East Wing. Completely unacceptable. Marcus nodded silently, retrieving his supplies. He had cleaned those frames yesterday, but arguing would only invite dismissal. The Hartwell tour represented a $50 million acquisition for Victoria, and her stress manifested as increasingly unreasonable expectations. I expect perfection today, not the mediocre work you usually provide, she continued, her voice cutting deeper than intended. This deal depends on showing them a flawless environment. If anything goes wrong because of your negligence, there will be consequences. The words stung more than Marcus cared to admit. Mediocre work. If she only knew the precision he once brought to operating rooms, the lives that had depended on his expertise. But pride was another luxury he couldn't afford. He absorbed her criticism with practiced silence, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. "Yes, ma'am," he replied, already moving toward the ladder. Excellence had always been his standard, whether saving careers or cleaning chandeliers. Some things never changed, even when recognition disappeared. Victoria's black Tesla disappeared down the curved driveway at 7:15, bound for the airport and her 3-day business conference in Chicago. The mansion settled into peaceful silence, releasing the tension that had gripped its walls since dawn. Marcus exhaled slowly, grateful for the reprieve from her increasingly sharp demands. The Hartwell tour had proceeded flawlessly yesterday. Every surface gleamed, every detail perfect, yet Victoria had departed without acknowledgement of his contribution. Success was expected, never celebrated. Failure, however, would have brought swift consequences. Marcus moved through his routine with methodical precision, each room receiving the same careful attention whether she was present or absent. Professional standards didn't fluctuate based on observation. Emma would arrive from school in 3 hours, and he planned to finish early for once, maybe take her to the park despite her ankle discomfort. The landline rang from Victoria's study, an unusual interruption that sent unease through his chest. Personal calls never came to this number. He hesitated before answering, unsure of protocol in her absence. "Sterling residence," he said carefully. "Thank God someone answered," a panicked voice responded. "This is Margaret Shunn, calling from Mercy General Hospital. There's been an accident involving Mrs. Sterling's elderly neighbor, Mr. Hartwell. He collapsed at his home, and his daughter gave us this number as emergency contact. We need someone here immediately. He's asking for help, and his medical condition is deteriorating rapidly. Can someone come right away?" Marcus's hands trembled slightly as he gripped the steering wheel of his aging Honda, racing toward Mercy General Hospital. The emergency call had shattered his careful equilibrium, dragging him back toward a world he had deliberately left behind. Mr. Hartwell, Victoria's 82-year-old neighbor, had apparently suffered a medical crisis that required immediate intervention. The hospital's familiar antiseptic smell hit him like a physical blow as he entered the emergency department. White coats moved with purposeful urgency around him, their movements triggering muscle memory he had spent 3 years trying to suppress. This was dangerous territory, a place where his hidden identity might crack under pressure. A harried nurse approached the reception desk, where he waited. "Are you here for Robert Hartwell?" she asked, consulting her clipboard with obvious stress. "His daughter said someone from a Sterling household would come. He's been asking for help, but he's confused and agitated. We can't calm him down." Marcus nodded, following her through corridors that felt simultaneously foreign and familiar. Through the partially open door of room 12, he could see an elderly man thrashing weakly against his restraints, his breathing labored and irregular. The monitors showed elevated heart rate and blood pressure, classic signs of acute distress. The attending physician looked exhausted. "He keeps saying someone needs to check his back, but we can't find any obvious injury. Maybe you can help us understand what he needs." Marcus stepped into the room, and everything changed. Marcus approached Mr. Hartwell's bedside with the quiet confidence that had once defined his professional identity. The elderly man's eyes locked onto his face with desperate recognition, though they had never met before. Sometimes patients sensed expertise before words were spoken. "You're here," Mr. Hartwell whispered, his voice barely audible above the monitor's persistent beeping. "My back, it's locked up. Can't move properly since the fall." The attending physician frowned. "We've done x-rays, CT scans. No fractures, no obvious spinal damage." Marcus's trained gaze swept over Mr. Hartwell's positioning, noting the subtle protective posturing that spoke volumes to someone who understood musculoskeletal dysfunction. "May I?" he asked, his hands already moving toward the patient's lower spine with practiced precision. The moment his fingers made contact, years of specialized training took control. His touch was methodical, professional, mapping vertebral alignment with the expertise of someone who had spent countless hours studying spinal mechanics. L4 and L5 showed clear signs of acute subluxation, a condition easily missed on imaging but unmistakable to experienced hands. "He's experiencing acute lumbar dysfunction," Marcus said quietly, unconsciously slipping into clinical terminology. The fall likely caused vertebral misalignment, creating muscle spasm and nerve irritation. Simple manual adjustment should provide immediate relief. The attending physician stared at him with growing bewilderment. "Are you a medical professional? Because what you're describing requires specific training to diagnose and treat safely." The silence in the hospital room stretched like a taut wire as Marcus realized his carefully constructed facade had crumbled beyond repair. The attending physician waited for an answer, her eyes sharp with professional curiosity and growing suspicion. "I was a doctor of physical therapy," Marcus admitted quietly, his voice carrying the weight of 3 years' worth of buried identity. "Johns Hopkins trained, specialized in spinal rehabilitation and sports medicine. 15 years of practice before I became a janitor." The nurse's clipboard clattered to the floor. The attending physician's expression shifted from skepticism to fascination as she processed this revelation. "Dr. Marcus Chun," she said slowly, recognition dawning in her voice. "You published that groundbreaking research on non-invasive spinal alignment techniques. Your work revolutionized treatment protocols for acute lumbar dysfunction." Marcus nodded, his professional instincts overriding personal discomfort as Mr. Hartwell moaned softly. "With your permission, I can't perform the manual adjustment. It's a simple procedure, but it requires precise technique to avoid further injury." "Please," Mr. Hartwell gasped. "The pain is unbearable." The attending physician stepped back, understanding that sometimes expertise transcended current credentials. Marcus positioned his hands with surgical precision, applying controlled pressure at specific anatomical points. Years of training guided every movement as he performed the delicate realignment that would restore normal function. The change was immediate and dramatic. Mr. Hartwell's breathing deepened, his face relaxing as the spasm released and normal spinal mechanics returned. "What made you leave medicine to become a janitor?" The physician asked softly. "Have you ever had to choose between your dreams and your child's future? Sometimes love requires impossible sacrifices." Victoria Sterling stood frozen in the hospital doorway, her designer briefcase forgotten in her grip as she witnessed the impossible scene unfolding before her. She had returned early from Chicago after receiving an urgent call about Mr. Hartwell's condition, expecting to find chaos and confusion. Instead, she found her janitor commanding a room full of medical professionals with quiet authority. The man she had dismissed as mediocre just yesterday was discussing complex spinal mechanics with the attending physician, his hands moving with surgical precision as he completed Mr. Hartwell's treatment. This couldn't be the same person she paid minimum wage to clean her toilets. "Dr. Chun," the physician was saying, "we have an opening in our orthopedic rehabilitation department. Your expertise would be invaluable, especially given the aging population's increasing need for non-invasive spinal care." Marcus helped Mr. Hartwell sit up slowly, monitoring his response with practiced vigilance. "Thank you, but I can't consider returning to medicine right now. My daughter needs stability, and career transitions require time I don't have." Victoria stepped into the room, her presence commanding immediate attention. Everyone turned toward her, but Marcus's face showed only resignation, not surprise. He had always possessed an uncanny awareness of his surroundings. "Mrs. Sterling," Mr. Hartwell said weakly, "your employee just saved me from excruciating pain. This man is a miracle worker." Victoria stared at Marcus, seeing him clearly for the first time. The careful precision in his work, the way he analyzed problems, his gentle competence with Emma's injury. Everything suddenly made perfect, devastating sense. The drive back to the mansion passed in contemplative silence, Victoria's mind rewriting 3 years of assumptions about the man sitting quietly in her passenger seat. Marcus had insisted on returning her car after she'd rushed to the hospital in a taxi. Another small courtesy she had never acknowledged. "I owe you an apology," she said finally as they pulled into her circular driveway. "And an explanation for why I've been so blind." Marcus parked carefully, his movements still precise and professional. "You employ me to clean your home, Mrs. Sterling. I did exactly what you paid me to do. But you're not just a janitor. You're Dr. Marcus Chun, one of the most respected physical therapists on the East Coast. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because being Dr. Chun doesn't pay for Emma's insurance or keep food on our table," Marcus replied simply. "Sometimes we become what circumstances require, not what our diplomas suggest we should be." Victoria felt something shift inside her chest, a recognition of worth that transcended job titles and social hierarchies. "Tomorrow, I'm calling the head of rehabilitation at Sterling Medical Center. They've been searching for someone with your expertise to lead their new spinal care program. The position comes with full benefits, research opportunities, and enough flexibility for a devoted father." Marcus turned to face her, hope flickering in his eyes for the first time in years. "Everyone deserves to be seen for who they truly are," Victoria continued. "I'm sorry it took me so long to really see you. If this story touched your heart, let us know where you're listening from tonight and share how it made you feel.